There are new fears that North Korea is developing chemical or biological weapons after a recent defector was found to have anthrax antibodies in his blood. Meantime, today President Trump claimed to have anticipated the North Korean nuclear threat, tweeting this: "I've been saying it a long, long time, hashtag North Korea." He had the video to prove it, too.
We have nuclear weapons. They're going to have those weapons pointed all over the world and specifically at the United States.
That was he saying there on Meet the Press with Tim Russert. The president also criticized China's role in propping up North Korea, tweeting, "Caught red-handed, very disappointed that China is allowing oil to go to North Korea. There will never be a friendly solution to the North Korean problem if this continues to happen." Harry Katsianis is the director of defense studies at the Center for National Interest, and that was satellite video showing oil rigs pulling into North Korea. Harry, first off, biological weapons, does that change anything?
I mean, it's something we've always suspected, Brian, for the longest time. You know, the North Koreans, we've been talking about this program for a while, about them having potentially as many as 60 nuclear weapons. We know the North Koreans have as much as 5,000 tons of chemical weapons, probably about 130 to 160 missiles to mount those chemical weapons on. But now it seems pretty clear the North Koreans do have a biological weapons program. It's been rumored and been studied for a long time, perhaps as much as 2 decades, we've sort of speculated. But with this North Korean soldier having anthrax antibodies in his bloodstream, seems to either confirm one of two things. Either it was a farmhand working on a farm and somehow got it. That's one way you can get anthrax. Or somehow he came in contact with it, or he was inoculated for it in the military. So we have to be concerned. It's troubling.
These people are starving to death. The soldiers that came by, the other one had a tapeworm 1.5 feet long inside of him. What's happening if they're rotting from the inside? But let's talk about this oil in China. The fact is they're still dealing with it. Do you believe these could be private companies doing something the Chinese government doesn't know about?
I don't think so, Brian. The Chinese have consistently cheated on UN Security Council resolutions. Think about this for a second, Brian. This is the 10th United Nations Security Council resolution with North Korea involving sanctions. The Chinese, it seems, according to the video, I think what President Trump did was a bold step to go on Twitter, and I think it's pretty clear. The bromance between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump is over. And good riddance. I'm glad it's done, because the Chinese, they were only going to help us, but only to a certain extent.
Harry, we're building up a military presence there, but we know the risk of a military fight there. But we have to show we're willing to fight at the very least. Word is we're going to push on trade restrictions and some type of sanctions on China, and we're going to get Europe's involvement in it to try to press this thing to a peaceful conclusion. But the current situation of going on like this is not acceptable to President Trump, nor his chief of staff, nor the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, nor his Secretary of Defense. It's all coming to a head in 2018. Will this work, pressuring China with trade restrictions, because they could follow back with retribution, and the pain might be felt economically in both in the U.S. and in Europe?
It's true, Brian, and I think the president right now has the right approach. He has what I and others have called essentially as the Python strategy. You squeeze the North Korean economy as hard as you possibly can, because remember this, the North Korean economy is its weakness. Its economy is 1/3 the size of my home state of Rhode Island. So if you make them feel the pain, it'll work. And with the Chinese, look, we have robust trade relations with China. It's worth $600 billion in terms of bilateral trade. But we also know that the Chinese help the North Koreans launder money through their banks. They've helped the North Koreans cheat on all different types of UN Security Council resolutions. So we need to be bold to China and tell them, look, if you're going to keep helping the North Koreans evade sanctions and essentially help them build nuclear weapons, that's going to hurt our relationships. And I hope that'll make them back down.
Harry, keep working your contacts, because by all accounts, this will be the #1 international issue facing not only Nikki Haley at the UN, but us here in the U.S. and the Pentagon. Harry Katsianis, thanks so much.
Thanks, Brian.